My name is Vandana Ravi, and I was the winner of the Palo Alto Humane Society's first Ambassadors of Compassion writing contest in 2019, as well as a judge of this year's contest. Today, Carol Hyde of the Humane Society has invited me to talk with you about the act of writing about animals. Take a moment to think about the animal stories that you've read, or maybe even written. Some of my favorites are The One and Only Ivan by Katherine Applegate, Charlotte's Web by E.B. White, and Every Living Thing by Cynthia Ryland. What's something all of those stories have in common? They all let you see the world from a new perspective, the animal's perspective. When you write about animals, you imagine yourself in an animal's shoes. How would you feel if you were locked up in a zoo, or raised on a farm, or living in a shelter and waiting for a home? What would you wish for? What would you be afraid of? What things would make you happy or sad? When you answer those questions, you're practicing empathy. You're trying to understand and share an animal's feelings. But you're also probably practicing something else, compassion. A definition of compassion from the Compassion Project is, compassion is when you notice that another person or animal is in need and you have concern that you want to show. Compassion can include feeling in your heart for others, understanding and caring about the feelings of others, understanding what others need or want, and wanting to do something that might help. When you try to see the world from an animal's perspective, you're caring about that animal's feelings, trying to understand what it might need or want, and wanting to do something that might help. And that something might be writing, using your voice to advocate for animals who can't advocate for themselves. So that's an aspect that figures strongly when you sit down to write about animals, whether you're writing a story or an informational article, feeling compassion and acting on that compassion. There's also another aspect to consider, and this is what it is. The emotions we project onto animals might not always be what they're actually feeling. We can never know for sure what is really going on in an animal's mind at any given moment. So writing about animals is all about guessing. And where do we get those guesses from? A lot of the time, there are two places we draw from, our personal experiences and our imagination. Say you're writing about a stray dog who gets rescued and finds a home. Maybe you've been lost before, or you've felt lonely before. So when you're describing how the dog feels as he wanders the city, you're incorporating those memories into your writing. But you might not know what it would feel like to be rescued by a strange family and eventually adopted. So you start using your imagination. You might make up emotions that you think make sense for the situation, or you might imagine yourself in that situation and try to capture how that feels on paper. This is where empathy can help you to try to paint a picture of the dog's mind without ever having been inside it. It might not be the most accurate representation, because again, you've never been inside the dog's mind, but it's your interpretation of what its emotions might look like in that situation. Your interpretation is what your unique personal experiences and your unique imagination come up with when you put yourself in someone else's shoes. It's what brings your writing to life. If coming up with that interpretation seems hard at first, there are some things you can do to make it easier. First of all, part of the prompt for the Humane Society's Ambassadors of Compassion contest is this. Think of the many ways that animals help people: companionship, therapy and healing, safety and rescue, support for soldiers, helping on the farm, and think of how people can help animals in return. For me, a good way to kickstart my brain is to actually write down a list of how animals help people, including memories of how animals have helped me, and a list of how people can help animals in return, including ways I've helped animals or might have the opportunity to do so. Visualizing that give and take between animals and humans is often quite helpful. Once you have a sense of some of the dynamics between humans and animals, you can try to figure out what way of representing that is easiest for you. Maybe you like writing fantasy and you want to delve into compassion for animals through a mythical lens. Or maybe you're fascinated by articles about how climate change affects animals, so you want to advocate for animals in an informational article. Go for the topics that make you excited to write. A final question you might ask is, why would I want to write about animals? The reasons are different for everyone. It can help you practice empathy. It can be fun to explore a new perspective. It can be a way of describing your own experiences. It can help raise awareness about important issues. Really, it's a blank canvas, and you can paint on it any picture that's close to your heart. Thanks for listening, and I hope this gives you some inspiration to start writing.